when you look at this container, all you can see are the problems. But if you contextualize what is going on, if you wake up in the morning and you do what I call a gratitude audit, it really helps your self confidence as you think about the blessings that you have been given. College education, perhaps, parents, if that's the case, your siblings and relatives, to the extent that you have a partner or a spouse, if you have children, and many other things that you are blessed. You're probably sleeping under a roof. You probably have food at least somewhere that you can consume every day. So there's so many blessings. And if you start by trying to build your self-confidence, that is really the key, because overcoming FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, is what we have to do as responsible people in this business to be successful.
Excited for this one. Welcome to the show, Mr. Ken Ashley. How are you, sir?
Good. So great to be on your Dustin. It's an honor to be here. Thank you for having me.
And especially because you're very proficient in commercial real estate. You've been in it for a while, for a few decades now. There's a lot that we want to talk about, these cycles, your book, CREi Summit. But let's start with your origin story. Could you just give a brief introduction to yourself, who you are, and where you started?
Well, I appreciate that, Dustin. So I work as a tenant rep at Cushman Wakefield, which means that I help companies solve real estate problems. And we understand that companies are running their companies. They're not in the real estate world. And although we think about sticks and bricks all the time, our job is to help them understand and diagnose what their business imperative is, and then to help solve that with our real estate solution. So that's what I do for a living. I have a great team, and we do both transactions in Atlanta, Georgia, which is where I live and work, and then really across the Americas, to some extent across the world. And we help companies that have portfolios of leases and locations is really the biggest part of our business now, and that continues to grow. In terms of how I got started, like a lot of people, I bumped into a tenant rep, and Brad Smith is his name. He was kind enough to explain to me how our business works. And it is, in fact, the best business in the world. It's very opaque. It's sort of hard to figure out, but it is a terrific business. And one of the things that Brad helped me see is that after you pay your broker, after you buy some steak dinners and do some entertaining, there's no cost of goods sold. Yeah, your tech stack a little bit, but it's a very high margin business when executed right. And that's one of the things we love about it. How I got started after I talked to Brad is talked to a number of different firms and ended up at the company I really wanted to work at, was Cushman Wakefield. And I've been here, believe it or not, for 30 years. It doesn't seem like it. I went through the interview process like everyone else and got the position. And the first year, it's better now. There's a lot of training and resources in today, but back then there wasn't. And it was a very difficult year for me. We have this thing called lumpy cash flow. In fact, I had no cash flow. And my wife had told me that evening that I went home with the new position that she was pregnant with our first kid. And I had 9 months to make it go. It's the time I gave myself. And, 8.5 months after not closing a transaction, I couldn't sleep. The stress was just enormous. But we did end up closing a deal before my son, Jonathan, was born 29 years ago. And we took some of that fee and we bought the bed frame that Karen and I you sleep in every night to this very day. So I wake up every morning and I'm thankful, and I love this business, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity started by Brad Smith, but many others have leaned in and helped me over the years.
Yeah, hearing that, when I talk to people that have had varying levels of success, but when people that have found their career and found their way, it's always nice to hear when they reference somebody who helped guide them, help get them in, or help somewhat navigate that early path. So that tracks with what I hear with other successful folks. When you said that first year was hard, and
Yeah.
then you're dealing with all these things, your life is happening. Did you know then at that deal, or when did you realize this is what I'm going to do? I love this. I'm going to continue doing this. Did you come to that realization early, or was that something that developed later?
Boy, that's such an insightful question. And I know it's something that a lot of people struggle with. Did I make the right choice? And I would say it took me a while. First of all, non negotiable in our business, you have to be a hustler. You have to be personally responsible for your success. There are tools and people around you that can help, but you have to be the key driver. You have to have that drive and wake up hungry every single morning. And I still do to this very day. But I would say the thing that kept me going in that first year is I looked around at my friends and colleagues, some of who are still here, who I watched them and their lifestyle, and I respected so much what they accomplished. And I'm like, man, how do they drive those cars? And how do they get to go to those meetings? And how do they get in the sit in the rooms with a seat of power? And I knew that I wanted that for myself, that I wanted to be able to talk to executives. I wanted to be able to go to the boardrooms and go to the golf clubs and do those things. So I was attracted to the lifestyle. And then I saw the real impact that they have on with their expertise on projects. I mean, doing big deals is fun. You know, something that's transformative to your community is a lot of fun to work on. And so and then, the other thing was a friend told me it'd kind of be more boring to know what you're going to make on January 1. So if you knew what your salary was going to be and your bonus was going to be, I mean, what's the way I think and the way I'm wired, what's the incentive? So after year one was tough, year two was a little bit better, year three got better, and we started to finally see some income. Then it became more exciting because then you focus not on the downside, but you begin to think about the upside. And the reality is in this business, depending on you, depending on where you choose to spend your time and your expertise and which company you're with, you can make movie star money. That's exciting. Money is not the only thing in life, but money does make life easier. There's no doubt about that.
So you said 30 years. Congratulations on 30 years. That's remarkable. There have been many cycles through that time. Can you walk us through your first experience and like how you dealt with it and what
Well, I think, first of all, recognizing that there are cycles is important. Uh, you know, the first downturn is scary, and if you've begun in the business and this is your first downturn, just know that there are cycles for a reason. They last typically about 8, sometimes 10 years from beginning to end, and it's just the reality of where we are. And it feels like this down cycle, to the extent that we're still in one, will last for forever, but it will not. Even if we wanted it to stay bad, but I think the second thing, and maybe part of your question is when you begin your career. I mean, that's kind of a cycle too, and just there's insecurities. I mean, how do I talk to an executive? I got these senior brokers who have connections and cash and credentials and all these things that I don't. How do I overcome? How do I succeed? Well, that's part of building the team and building the plan. So this is a confidence game, and I want to show you something, if you don't mind. Is a container full of golf balls. And there are 24 golf balls in here, and the white golf balls represent the blessings in your life. And you see here, there's a couple of red golf balls in there. Those are the problems in your life. And when you look at this container, all you can see are the problems. But if you contextualize what is going on, if you wake up in the morning and you do what I call a gratitude audit, it really helps your self confidence as you think about the blessings that you have been given. College education, perhaps, parents, if that's the case, your siblings and relatives, to the extent that you have a partner or a spouse, if you have children, and many other things that you are blessed. You're probably sleeping under a roof. You probably have food at least somewhere that you can consume every day. So there's so many blessings. And if you start by trying to build your self confidence, that is really the key because overcoming FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, is what we have to do as responsible people in this business to be successful.
Where did you first develop this mindset? Like the gratitude, whether it's a meditation, gratitude journal, like where did this enter your life? Was it from necessity? Was it, dealing with something and somebody told you like, hey, why don't you do this? Was it church? Like where did that come from?
Well, yeah, I've got a good friend, Rod Santomassimo, who is a well-known coach who began to talk about some of these ideas early on. I watched other leaders in my business and in my religious community. Certainly part of a religious principle that part of your success is understanding where you are in the world and the context around it. But also part of it is necessity. We are constantly bombarded with negative news stories. That's what sells. If it bleeds, it leads. We are constantly hearing negative things through all sorts of channels. So, it was learned by multiple ways over a period of time. But Will Rogers said one time, most people are about as happy as they make up their mind to be. And if you will make up your mind to be happy, to be driven, but at the same time content, which is an interesting concept, and do that gratitude audit with frequency, you'll live a much better and happier life because you're intentional about this.
That there's a balance there, like being driven and be content. And I think about this quite often, of the balance of, confidence and humility, of patient but urgent. There's a lot of things in the life and the creating this mindset and figure, but a big part of it come I've found that I've spoken with a lot of other people about this is it's intentional. You have to put your attention on those things and when you're doing it and how you do it. Not be stuck there, but take minutes to pause and actually do that. So that's amazing that you brought that up. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, and just one other idea to share with you. I agree with you that there's a tension. You can't get complacent in being happy about all these blessings. You still have to drive yourself. And one of the ways to drive yourself is to create accountability. And the best way to create accountability is to have someone else involved. So I created something called the Friday Five. And the Friday Five is, let's say you develop 3, 4 goals that you want to achieve. It could be a fitness goal, it could be a business goal, it could be, in multiple areas, but you've got very clear steps in those goals. So find someone that's a buddy in a totally different business. Maybe she or he is in tech sales or something that's different. But you have a lunch and you both agree, here are our goals. And then on Friday morning at 9 a.m., and you can make it anytime you want, you're going to speak every Friday for 5 minutes. And you have 2.5 minutes, and your buddy has 2.5 minutes. And you have that call, and you've got to report out on your 4 goals. Did you do the things you said you would do this week? And it's like the gym. You can lie, but it's only hurting yourself. So that little bit of accountability it only takes 5 minutes. It's not hurting anybody's schedule. It's helping the other person as well. And you both are trying to grow together. So you don't necessarily have to spend a ton of money if you can on coaching. If you want to do that, I've done it. That's a good investment. But the Friday Five is an easy way to bring accountability to your point to make sure that we're in growth mode.
I want to make sure we save some time to talk about your forthcoming book and also CREI. But before we do that, something is very important to me, and that's being of service to your community and giving back. And you have been involved with the Boy Scouts for quite some time, and I want to take a moment, like how did that, the social, the giving, the doing those things, how did you start with that journey?
Sure. Well, first of all, I believe in a concept called civic rent. And what civic rent says is to whom much is given, much is expected. So in your community and in my community, many people have invested in us, starting with our parents all the way up through our teachers, coaches. Many people have worked really hard to make us who we are today. We owe that back. We owe a debt of gratitude to society. One of the ways to pay that is by meeting with young people, which is kind of the nexus for the book. But the second way to do it is through community service. And so through the Boy Scouts of America, now Scouting USA, I've been privileged to be a board member for a couple of decades now. I'm an Eagle Scout, and I love my community service there. It's not directly making me money, but it's paying back my civic rent. But here is the aha. When you're involved in the community, then you begin to meet executives who are also involved in the community. And you don't start this to have a business conversation, but I can report firsthand that business conversations occur because you become friends. There's a level of trust, and you both are passionate about something else other than your business and my real estate. We have a shared interest otherwise. So I would never advise anybody to go to try to be merchant about it to get hired, but it does happen. I serve on a number of not-for-profit boards, and it's a real honor to serve the community, and it's a lot of fun.
That concept of doing good for goodness sake. I mean,
Yeah, doing well by
I know
doing
it's,
good.
yeah, it's amazing, and it's funny when you go into something without expectations, the relationships that you build with no expectation that you're just there to help. It's amazing the good things that can come from that, and the relationships that things happen that you're like, oh, I didn't even know that door was there. So it's like
Yeah.
walking through that door, which opens other doors. So yeah, I completely agree with that. So you mentioned so that's the crux of your book. Can you just give us a synopsis of the genesis of the book and what it's about?
Sure. Well, I will spend the rest of my life meeting with young people, and I'm glad to do it. By the way, have put some guardrails. I'll get to the book, but the idea is, I have a lot of executives reach out and say, "Will you meet with my kid?" I sure will. but your kid has to reach out to me. I don't have mommy and daddy set meetings. I really require the young person to reach out. And I warn people, just like you, Dustin, I get a lot of communication. So I may not see your email the first time. So you're going to have to be persistent. And that's a little bit of that's by design. And then you need to be on time. Unfortunately, some people are late. When you think about the concept of how we're compensated and what our time is worth, that's just not an acceptable thing. So be on time, be prepared, have your questions ready, and it'll be a good time and a productive time. So when I meet with young people, I go through my diagnostic of where they are, trying to understand who they are and what they want to be. And then I've developed the habit of taking a pad of paper, and I would write their name at the top, and I would write prescription and put a date on it and write 6 or 8 things that they ought to do next to accomplish their goals or to begin their journey. And then I would sign it. And it started out as kind of a funny thing, real estate prescription. And then all of a sudden, a friend said, well, why don't you write that stuff down in a book? So I did. And it's 3 sections. The first section describes our industry. And if you're not in our industry, you know how hard it is to understand. Everybody tries to compare us to residential real estate, and it's a weak comparison. And then the second goes to explain how to get into our industry, to go from sitting on your couch watching Netflix to getting hired. How do you make those phone calls? How do you get the meeting? How do you follow up? And what do you negotiate in your contract? And then the third part is, once you get hired on day one, what are you going to do to be successful? So the real estate prescription is in final edit. In fact, I owe my editor something this afternoon. But we're very close. Will be an audio book. There will be a parallel workbook, and then the book itself. I'm trying really hard to get it out before Christmas of this year.
So congratulations. I have not written a book myself, but everybody that I talk to that has, like, it's a journey, it's a process. But also I love the fact that you're giving very pragmatic, very practical steps for people to take and to understand, and that only comes with experience, to be able to lay things out in an easy to digest manner.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, I hope that it's a help to the community. And one of the things is this profession that we're in. It's great to make money, but it's not all about money. And hopefully, there's some impact. And your success blesses others. And if it's part of the Civic brand a little bit, if I can continue to help other people to the extent I can be successful, that's what we're trying to accomplish.
CREi. I'm familiar with it. I have not yet, but I got to admit, I have not been to one one of the events. Could you talk about the origin story of that and how you came up with that? And congratulations on doing that and your success. But I'd love to hear the
Thank you.
journey.
Thank you. Well, it's a COVID passion project. In March of 2020, a lot of us it was a pretty weird world. I think we all remember it. But I have a degree in marketing. I think a lot about it, and I had some realizations at the time that the grip and grin at the cocktail party, the dinner at the country club, the entertainment at the concert was not going to be possible, and maybe not for a long time. So, how in the world do we continue to market ourselves as real estate professionals? So, what I began to realize, I'd been involved in social media for a while. That's a good way to do it, but we have some of the best tools in human history. They're largely free, and not a lot of people knew how to use them. So I started looking around at others who were using them well, and I decided, sort of an unusual thing, but I wanted to create a list of people who were initially doing things well in Twitter, then as it was then called. And we published the list, and my graphic artist had an idea. He said, "Why don't you give them a badge?" I said, "What does that mean?" He said, "Well, for everyone that is on the list, put their picture on there and say, 'Hey, you're a list maker. Congratulations.'" So I went on 99 Designs, and for $200, I got the blue logo that we use today. I emailed everybody that was on the first list. It took a long time to put that list together because there was not a real source of truth other than Duke Long's list, and I wanted to do it a little differently. And we published the list, and I think the community kind of scratched its head. It's like, not sure what these guys are up to, but okay, cool. And so people started posting that with the CREi logo on it, which stands at the time for Commercial Real Estate Influencer, now more Commercial Real Estate Innovator,
Mm.
is where we're positioning that. And so I tell people it went from an idea to a list to eventually a summit and then to a community. And so you fast forward today, we meet once a year. You can go to CREiSummit.com. The only thing we're focused on is digital tools to drive business development. And the result of that focus, of that intense commitment to getting better, is we built this amazing community of people who attend. Now hundreds of people are involved in the community, and it's a great experience to come to a CREi Summit because we have something important. I call it the abundance mentality. And for years in commercial real estate, we've had a corn row mentality. We walk down the corn row, we don't look left, we don't look right. It's all secret. Don't share anything that you're working on. And of course, you're not going to share client information. You're not going to share things you shouldn't share. But if it's a practice, to me, the issue is not the idea; it's the execution of the idea that's the competitive issue. Dustin, you and I are a country away, and it is unlikely that you're going to be chasing a transaction that I am. But you have some great ideas, and I want to hear them. That's what we're about at CREi Summit.
When did you make the decision from influencers to innovators? Like what was that crossroads?
It's been a conversation that's been going on. I mean, we will continue to use CREi as commercial real estate influencers because, frankly, that's a trademarked term. Now we're going to have to stick with that. And by the way, the I is lowercase because we want people to use influence and innovation for good, servant leadership. That's just a small moniker. But we began to realize over the past year that there are in different, say, sectors, people who are using influence to sell T-shirts or suits or shoes or sunglasses, and that's not really what we're about. In fact, in some corners, it would be a pejorative. I don't think that it is, but just to help people understand that there's more than influence. It's about innovation and about business development success. That's why we shifted that.
It's amazing. Man, you got my wheels turning. Because again, just big in commercial real estate, and then also have my foot in the tech world. And I got my AI business application certificate a couple years ago,
Awesome.
and just part of the best part about going to that course, because it was through Cal Berkeley, and it was just all AI business applications. And people that were coming in, there were people in finance, there were people in healthcare, people in education, you name it, all these different industries. And the ideas that I was like, oh, what about this? What about, oh, you could do this, you could do that. And so that blending, and this also goes to what you were saying about meeting with people in other industries that
Yeah.
hold you accountable.
Yeah.
To me, that was the best because once I got to see how other people thought and how they were attacking problems, maybe not attacking problems, overcoming challenges. When they were doing that, it was like, well, okay, that's similar to this. We could use this to do this. But it's the execution. Like an idea is not a product, it's not a business. Those are different things.
Yeah.
So taking these ideas and bringing the right team around it to make something happen, that's where the magic happens. That's where I light up.
Indeed. Well, I hope that your listeners will consider attending the summit. It's not really a money making venture at all. It's about impact. And what is incredible is you give and then you get. Such a community to lean into. And for example, a lot of people are concerned about making a post on social media that people might say bad things about them. So how do you deal with that? How do you structure your content? How do you stay consistent? What tools, what tech stack do you use? To your point, and I'm excited to hear about your AI background, 50% of our conference next year will be how to use AI, and not only to eliminate low payback activities, but to augment us in high payback areas. So for me, a high payback activity is meeting someone who's a prospect for the first time or doing a dinner, a pitch, or anything that leads us to getting hired. So how do we go from having AI make note taking easier to getting hired easier? That's where I want to spend my time and really understanding that extraordinarily powerful tool. We'll talk about podcasting. You've done a great job on your podcast and now going for how many episodes over 2 years?
I guess we're almost 2 years. I think this will be episode 95 or 6.
That's incredible. That's
Yeah,
just I'm
thank
so
you.
proud of that. That's great. So how do people follow in your path? How do you get invited to podcasts? How are you better guests? How do you use email better? So these are just down the middle things. And I got to tell you what, just listening into the room and getting all the buffet of ideas is unbelievable. And we're all in it to win it in our community and in our area, in our market. This is a way to do it.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate the kind words about the podcast. And it's fun. It's fun. And perhaps I'm not the best at it. Like whatever. it's fun. I get to talk to people that I'm really impressed by that have accomplished cool things, and I get to learn more and share that with other people that are trying to find their path. And here's another thing I will say about this. I'm learning. I'm learning how to process, how to edit, how to post. Like, and it's a fun journey. I'm learning. It's low stress, but but the thing is, because I have so many different people that I'm friends with that are in different industries that do, it's my way of making connections and bridging people together. There are people that I know in, the tech startup world that will listen to this and will glean things from what you're saying and find a way to impact that they may have not otherwise crossed paths. And there's people in commercial real estate that I'll interview a life coach. So and they're like, oh, wow, that
Mhm.
makes sense. Like maybe I can read. So it's in a way it's for me, but also it's a way of that I can help bridge other people and shine a light on people that are doing the right things, and I can somehow, even if my little stage, I can give them a platform.
Well, I want to encourage you. I mean, you're the tall pole in the tent. You are elevating your brand, but you're doing the entire community a service. You're a super connector and bringing people and ideas together. And I just think it's terrific. So keep up the good work.
Man, well, thank you, thank you. Well, listen, before we go, I want to be mindful. Thank you so much for your time today. I know you got a lot of stuff cooking.
An honor to
Um,
be here.
is there anything, any parting wisdom you want to share with our listeners and our viewers? But also, I'm going to include all of your contact information, your LinkedIn, CREI in the show notes. But is there anything you want to leave the audience with?
Yeah, so I think success is up to the individual. And I think that the accountability and the drive and the fire in your belly is up to you. And if you're getting in this business and maybe the market is a little rough, it's a good time to get in because you can only ride it up. So if you do the right things and if you take care of yourself professionally and learn and grow and meet the right people, you will be successful. And when you are successful, your success blesses others, and that's such an important concept to remember. Not only your brokerage, your teammates, your family, but your entire community. And so, I think the way to end this is less is more. So, professionally, when you think about getting started in brokerage, I would advise you to pick a submarket or to pick a vertical. Maybe it's accounting, engineering, in the office world. Pick something law where you can focus on and become the expert. Because when people hire you or when they hire me, they want to believe that they've hired the very best to represent them in a very important transaction, a high profile transaction. And you can become more to people as you become more of an expert and starting with an area or a vertical, because that will not only serve your client, but that will help build your self confidence. So ultimately, you can put all of this energy, all of this learning, all this accountability, all the positive things in your life to work and get hired and become successful. And that will lead to victory.
Amen. Mr. Ken Ashley, thank you so much. Appreciate your time. Continued success.
Thank you, Dustin. All my best.